thank you as the 2020 Annual Catholic Appeal draws to a close.
Le quiero dar las gracias a esos que donaron por el Annual Catholic Appeal.
Thank you to the Annual Catholic Appeal donors.
We want to thank all who support the Annual Catholic Appeal.
Thank you from Homercast to all the wonderful Annual Catholic Appeal donors.
This message from our grant recipients is for you, the generous faithful of the Diocese of Springfield.
Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel, we'll introduce you to Springfield's 10th bishop. I'm Carolee McGrath. I'll have the story coming up.
I'm Kathy Harrington. Why you need to make your Christmas Mass plans and check them twice.
And is it the Christmas star? We learn about an astronomical phenomenon that only happens once every 2 decades. Coming up on this edition of Reel to Reel. Hello and welcome to Reel to Reel. With great joy and despite limitations due to the COVID pandemic, the Diocese of Springfield witnessed the ordination and installation of our new bishop, Bishop William Byrne, during ceremonies which took place Monday at St. Michael's Cathedral in Springfield. Carolee McGrath has more.
On the eve of his ordination, Springfield's Bishop William Byrne knocked on the door of St. Michael's Cathedral and was greeted by Monsignor Christopher Connolly, the rector of the cathedral, as is custom for a new bishop. And the priests and deacons of the diocese were excited to welcome him.
I know it was really exciting when you heard the knock at the door and then to think about welcoming our newest bishop, full of life and full of enthusiasm. And I think that people shared that with him tonight. It was just kind of a natural response to applaud.
Priests and deacons gathered on Sunday for evening prayer, which is part of the Liturgy of the Hours, to pray for the new bishop and the people he will lead. Due to COVID-19 restrictions, the evening prayer service was invitation only and was attended mostly by priests of the diocese and Bishop Byrne's family, as churches are restricted to 40% capacity. Father Bill Hamilton of the Office of Worship was also on the Episcopal ordination and planning team.
Collaborating and working with him already has just been a great gift. So there was that excitement, him coming into his church. This will be his church tomorrow, and saying, we're glad that you're here and we're here to support you.
The next day, Bishop Byrne was both ordained and installed as the new bishop of Springfield at the 2 p.m. Mass. Boston Cardinal Sean O'Malley was a principal celebrant, with Bishop James Cecchio of New Jersey and Bishop Austin Vetter of Montana as concelebrants.
And remember always that your ministry is above all a call to follow Christ. You responded generously 26 years ago by embracing a vocation to the priesthood. Today is a second call. Like Peter, you are being called to a deeper conversion, to a vocation of love and service.
Cardinal Wilton Gregory of Washington, D.C., Cardinal Donald Wuerl, Archbishop Emeritus of Washington, New York Cardinal Timothy Dolan, St. Louis Archbishop Mitchell Rosansky, Worcester Bishop Robert McManus, and Springfield Bishop Emeritus Timothy McDonnell were also concelebrants seated at the altar. Pope Francis named Bishop Byrne as the 10th Bishop of Springfield in October. He's a native and former priest of the Archdiocese of Washington. During the rite of ordination, Bishop Byrne was presented to Cardinal O'Malley. The apostolic letter from Pope Francis was then read aloud by Archbishop Christophe Pierre, the apostolic nuncio to the United States. Bishop Byrne then walked the letter down the center aisle of the cathedral. After the homily, Bishop Byrne lay prostrate on the altar as the cantors sang the Litany of Saints. This was followed by the laying on of hands, the handing on of the Book of the Gospels, the giving of the ring, mitre, and crozier. Finally, Cardinal O'Malley escorted Bishop Byrne to the cathedra, or the chair of the cathedral. Just before the ordination, Bishop Byrne told local media his top priorities are transparency and promoting justice and healing in the aftermath of the sexual abuse scandal. Bishop Byrne met with survivors prior to his installation.
The Holy Spirit has spoken to the people of this diocese, and now it's for us to listen and to implement. We have to move beyond any words. We've got to start taking action. So I have been already working on that to make sure, because that's the linchpin, I think, of rebuilding the faith in people's lives, is to build trust. They won't be able to hear the message of the gospel if they can't trust the teller of the story. And the apostles, of which I will soon be one and a successor, have been telling that story since they met the resurrected Christ. And that's my top priority.
Only 297 people were allowed in St. Michael's Cathedral for the ordination, which typically would draw as many as 1,000 guests. Springfield Mayor Dominic Sarno, Congressman Richie Neal, Springfield Police Commissioner Cheryl Clapproot, and Springfield Fire Commissioner B.J. Calvi were among those in attendance. Bishop Byrne comes from a big Catholic family. He is the youngest of 8 children. Most of his siblings are here in Springfield for the ordination, as are many of his nieces and nephews. His mother, Mary, 97 years old, made the trip as well, and there's not one religious vocation in his family, but 2. His sister, Sister Deirdre Byrne of the Little Workers of the Sacred Heart, a retired colonel in the U.S. Army Medical Corps and reservist, sat in the front pew with his mother.
Oh, I feel wonderful about it. I learn from them every day.
Bishop Byrne's sister, Susan Rust, did the first reading. She says both her mom and her father, Dr. William Byrne, who passed away several years ago, were incredible witnesses of the faith.
My parents set a very good example. If we would go traveling, the very first thing we would do was find out where Mass was the next morning so we could go to Mass in the morning. So we went to church and we prayed, probably don't remember this, but we prayed the rosary together. All of us, kneeling around my parents' bed and saying the rosary together. So that's also an important thing to do, just setting a good example and also making it kind of fun.
She also credited Bishop Byrne with fostering vocations at both the University of Maryland and as pastor of Our Lady of Mercy Parish in Potomac. 5 seminarians from Our Lady of Mercy were altar servers at the installation Mass.
I started watering up, it's so wonderful that he's made it this far. And I know he's smart and everybody thinks he's funny. He's very funny, but he's also
got a great personality.
He loves people. He just loves people. And but he's a really good administrator.
At the end of the Mass, Bishop Byrne gave a list of 5 things he's grateful for, playing off of his popular YouTube series, which was turned into a book, 5 Things with Father Bill. He listed God, his parents, brother priests, friends in the Archdiocese of Washington, and the priests and religious in Western Mass.
You and I are more than neighbors. We are brothers and sisters in the mission to save souls. We must rebuild trust, and we must preach the joy that love conquers hate, that peace defeats violence, that life destroys death itself, that Jesus Christ is risen. And in this alone do we find hope.
Reporting for Reel to Reel, I'm Carolee McGrath.
And we've posted the entire ceremony online on our Catholic Communications YouTube channel, accessible through iobserve.org. Call it COVID complicated. Attending Christmas Mass this year requires extra planning for parishes and the faithful. As Kathy Harrington discovered, different parishes are taking different approaches to this year's challenges.
There's no manual for this, so I think we're all looking online and seeing what's the best idea, best practice.
Father Jack Schaefer sums it up well. Our celebration of the Mass is always the same, based on the Bible, following the liturgical year, and our beliefs are explained in the Catechism. But this year, there are many different ways to celebrate the birth of our Lord. In Sheffield, Deacon Sean Mulholland of Our Lady of the Valley Parish says planning there got underway in October. With church seating limited to 42 people, parishioners first signed up for their preferred Mass, and then were given tickets. However, even those plans depend on the latest COVID numbers. But all 4 Masses can be seen live online. With a church COVID capacity of about 125, and 145 in the school gym, St. Thomas the Apostle Parish in West Springfield made big plans. 17 Masses are now scheduled for Christmas.
Well, we took the regular schedule, we added a couple masses to it, and then you double those because each mass, with the exception of our midnight mass, will be celebrating one in the church and one in the gymnasium.
Cleaning teams are in place to cover the extra masses. The challenge is making certain people know the Christmas Mass plan. But so far,
People have been very cooperative and understanding.
in Westfield, using two Mass locations, the parish center and the church, with a heated tent outside the front doors, is how Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament will make their ambitious Christmas schedule happen. Parishioners can also listen on their car radios. Mass is also live on YouTube. They hope they've covered all the bases so that anyone who turns up unexpectedly can take part in Christmas Mass.
Here at St. Michael's Church in East Long Meadow, this is what people will find this Christmas. It was determined that because of the COVID limitations of 130 people at Mass, it wasn't possible to accommodate parishioners, family, and friends. So Masses will be offered online.
Father Wayne Bernat says historically people began arriving for the 4 p.m. Mass at 2 o'clock, and by 2:05 the church was full. That's just not safe during a pandemic.
Then you have all those people sitting in the church for 2 hours, and then they're going to sit in the church for another hour, and we are going to turn away hundreds and hundreds of people on Christmas.
Bernat says with the restrictions, trying to have an in-person Mass just didn't make sense for this parish.
That could create an emotional and spiritual feeling of negativity within that person's heart being turned away on Christmas.
So Mass will be online. Additionally, there are 2 opportunities to safely receive the Holy Eucharist, one on Christmas Eve and the other on Christmas Day.
When you drive through the parking lot, you come in through this entryway, you come around, people will be able to receive communion either on the driver's side or the passenger side. We have an hour of time listed. We will stay there as long as people need to come through.
Podobnie po wieczerzy wziął kielich I ponownie dzięki Tobie składając.
Reservations are especially important if you are seeking Mass in another language. There will be 7 Christmas Masses at the Basilica of St. Stanislaus, Bishop and Martyr in Chicopee, but only 2 in Polish, at midnight and then 9 on Christmas morning, and a limit of 160 people in attendance. The Catholic Collaborative in Holyoke plans 8 Christmas Masses between St. Jerome and Immaculate Conception, 1 bilingual and 3 in Spanish, and seating is limited. For Reel to Reel, I'm Kathy Harrington.
If you're planning to attend Christmas Mass, you'll want to check on your parish's plan to manage crowds safely. We have a list of updated Mass schedules at diospringfield.org. And still to come on Reel to Reel, priest astronomer Father Doug McGonigal will explain an astronomical sight set to happen on the winter solstice. Coming up still on Reel to Reel.
The Chalice of Salvation, your weekly spiritual connection. I'm Passion's Brother Terrence Scanlon, your Chalice host, inviting you to take time out of your busy day and join us Sunday morning. We welcome Father Ryan Rooney as our Mass presider and together celebrate the 4th Sunday of Advent. The Chalice of Salvation, Sunday mornings at 10, right here on TV 22 News, and coming up next on Fox 23, WXXA.
Thank you, as the 2020 Annual Catholic Appeal draws to a close.
We want to give a big, heartfelt thank you to all the donors of the Annual Catholic Appeal.
Thank you, and we're very, very grateful.
Yes, thank you.
On behalf of the staff and clients of Catholic Charities, thank you.
Thank you!
This message from our grant recipients is for you, the generous faithful of the Diocese of Springfield who contributed to the success of this year's campaign.
We have finally reached the moment many have longed for, the end of the year 2020, when a deadly pandemic, racial unrest, and a conflict-ridden presidential election upended the plans and hopes that filled our hearts on that last New Year's Eve. The faith of the people in the Springfield Diocese was not lost, however, as pastors and parishioners worked to bring to their parishes live-streamed masses, outdoor liturgies, and even a mobile rosary procession to help keep congregations safe and connected. And amid the ongoing uncertainty about when and how to continue the practices of our Catholic faith, came another unexpected occurrence: the naming of our former bishop, Bishop Mitchell Rosansky, as Archbishop of St. Louis, Missouri. After our goodbyes to the first Polish-American bishop of our diocese, Worcester Bishop Robert McManus served us generously and graciously as Apostolic Administrator. Now, during the Christian season of hope, we have received a Christmas gift from Pope Francis himself: the appointment of a beloved pastor, Father William Byrne of the Washington Archdiocese, as the 10th Bishop of Springfield. In the pages of this special issue of the Catholic Mirror, you will find a biography of the new bishop, a report on his first visit to the diocese, an interview with his 97-year-old mother, comments from the Washington Archdiocese and from local Catholics, and a review of his new book. And in the cover story, the details of his December 14th ordination and installation. This issue also features local reports on the new Catholic Collaborative of Holyoke, the grants made possible by this year's annual Catholic Appeal, and a Springfield parish seeking a miracle for a man diagnosed with ALS. So in a year when choirs could not be present in our churches on Christmas, we hear the angels singing anyway, bringing the news of our Savior's birth and a new bishop to remind us as often as we need it that love always wins and our faith is the greatest gift of all. At the editor's desk, I'm Rebecca Drake.
We turn now to an event that only happens once every 2 decades. 2 of our solar system's gas giants will give observers here on Earth a look at a so-called Christmas star on the winter solstice. Joining me now to explain more on this majestic sight is priest astronomer Father Doug McGonigal, pastor of Our Lady of the Valley Parish in East Hampton. Hello, Father Doug. Thanks for joining us today.
Thanks for having me, Sharon.
So, as I understand it, come sunset on Monday, December 21st, in any time zone around the world, Jupiter and Saturn seemingly will merge into a single bright point of light low in the western sky. Why is this so significant?
It's usually the planets are scattered around the sky sort of randomly, but they are actually going in orbits, and Jupiter every 12 years, Saturn every 29 years, and every 2 decades or so, Jupiter and Saturn meet up along with the Earth and create a straight line. You can draw a line through the 3 planets, and so they seem to pass next to each other, and it's called a conjunction.
Now, how does this relate to the Star of Bethlehem that we are all used to talking about and hearing about on Christmas?
Well, Sharon, probably not a lot. You see, what we're talking about with Saturn and Jupiter coming up on the 21st is actually an astronomical event. That's something that we moderns really get excited about. But back at the time of Jesus' birth, we're talking about astrology. And what happened there was an astrological event, a regal portent, the stars lining up to predict the birth of a great king. And so the planets played a part in it. Jupiter and Saturn, in fact, were prominent, but it wasn't such a Steven Spielberg spectacular. It was more subtle than that.
There's definitely a lot of science and theology to discuss and intertwine here, but the bottom line is, I guess, that it will be a beautiful time to look up at the sky and think about what it was like when Christ was born, right?
It's always a great time to look up in the sky. You know, the heavens proclaim the glory of God. The more you study astronomy, the more you find out about the God who created all of it. So yes, folks, get out and look up in the sky more often and get more in touch with the universe. Remember, we are, as far as we know, we're the only part of the universe that looks out and tries to figure out what we all are. We're the universe trying to figure out itself. So get out there and enjoy the creation that God has given us.
Well, I will be getting out my binoculars for sure. Thanks so much, Father McGonigal. Fascinating information. As we celebrate the Christmas season in our Catholic churches during this pandemic year, one of our most beloved traditions will not be possible: enjoying our church choirs at Christmas Masses. Rebecca Drake has the story of how One Westfield Parish is using technology to bring the voices and faces of its choir back to the church, virtually during Christmas liturgies.
Will it really feel like Christmas if the choir loft is empty? In spite of ongoing pandemic restrictions, some local music ministers are working to bring choral performances into their churches in a new way this year.
The pandemic has turned the world upside down, and it's done quite a few things. It's closed our churches, it's closed our businesses, and it of course affects our choirs, where we can't get together because we're considered super spreaders when we sing. So we were looking for something to do as a way to get music back into the churches.
A former IT professional, Melanie teamed up with another former IT expert, Scott Arno, to produce video performances by choir members that could be shown on the large screens in Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament Church. They began by learning how to use new audio and video software.
Doing it to the point where you have all of the audio tracks synchronized with each other, both audibly and with the lips moving for the individual people, that became the very tricky part. Because you can see, even if you're off by 1/10 of a second, it shows up very blatantly on the screen. That plus the fact that the hardware that you need in terms of processing power can be pretty significant.
But after a month-long learning curve, Scott and Melanie were ready for a more ambitious undertaking: a 15-minute concert by adult and youth choir members to be presented before Christmas Masses at the church. Among those most excited about this project are the choir members, including Jamie Barnes.
It's wonderful, actually, because I've missed it as well as other choir members. We get teary when we talk about it. We miss singing. That's something that we love. That's like core of who I am and one of the gifts God gave us. And so we love doing it, and not just for ourselves, but for other people.
The parish pastor, Father Dan Pakalik, has been supportive of the plans to provide some special music for Christmas liturgies.
It is a wonderful tradition. We have a beautiful parish choir, and I think music, as I say, has really always been an important part of Mass. People have missed it in the months that we've gathered for Mass, and we wanted to kind of have something special for Christmas that would really be a kind of a little gift, a nice Christmas gift to the parish.
As they work toward the final product of this year's virtual Christmas concert, the music ministers at Our Lady of the Blessed Sacrament reflect on what has been lost and what they have learned during the pandemic.
What we've lost is the community spirit when people are gathered in a common place in song. And there's really no replacement for that. It's so special when the choir is singing a song and the people join in with us. And that's just the ultimate. It's a wonderful feeling.
As the weeks and the months went on, I really began to miss singing and being part of the Mass more. And I feel that the part that was missing too is that next level of worship and praise, as opposed to just being a participant in Mass. That's by singing, we're closer to the angels. The angels are singing the Holy, Holy, and we're just saying it.
It does prove also that we humans, when properly motivated, do have the ability to adapt to a changing environment, which this COVID has definitely been one of the biggest changes that we've ever seen in our lifetimes. So developing products like this and others as they come down the pike, it does prove that we can modify our lives to adapt to a world which is changing, hopefully temporarily.
I who made the stars of night. As we all wait for a return to live choral performances in our churches, the virtual concert may be a unique way to preserve a beloved Christmas tradition.
For me, I'm hoping that this video will enhance the parish's Christmas celebration by giving them the opportunity to hear some of their favorite songs from their parish choirs.
I'm hoping that they'll receive a package that they are able to listen to, enjoy, pull inspiration from. And my ultimate hope with Melanie's work is that the subsequent videos that we put out will continue to improve in quality. We can add more features to them, make them longer, and include different times of the year.
I hope to give people a sense of normalness by seeing us on the screen, by hearing our voices. People are going to feel like, okay, this is Christmas, because it's going to feel so different for people, and people are already, anticipating things not happening. So I think that if we can give them this, they're like, oh, it's our choir.
In a year unlike any we have known, technology may bring Catholics just a little closer to the angels this Christmas. For Real to Real, I'm Rebecca Drake.
And I'm sure we are all looking forward to full pews and in-person choirs again, but until then, we appreciate the efforts these music ministers do in helping us to ring in the true meaning of Christmas. And for this week, that's Real to Real. A reminder that you can join in Christmas morning as Springfield Bishop William Burns celebrates the Chalice of Salvation Mass, sharing his Christmas Eve liturgy from St. Michael's Cathedral. So tune in at 11 a.m. on WWLP TV 22 on Christmas morning. Also, if you're interested in attending Christmas liturgies in your parish, we have an updated schedule of Masses at diospringfield.org. As always, to keep up with all of the latest news on the Catholic Church, both here in the Diocese of Springfield and around the world, check out our news and information site, iobserve.org. And you can like us on Facebook at Catholic Communications. I will see you right back here next week for a special Singing Priest Christmas edition of Real to Real, your window on the world around you. Have a great week.
Real to Real is a production of the Catholic Communications Corporation, funded in part by the annual Catholic Appeal, and the support of you, our faithful viewers.
Thank you, as the 2020 Annual Catholic Appeal draws to a close.
We want to give a big, heartfelt thank you to all the donors of the Annual Catholic Appeal.
Thank you, Annual Catholic Appeal donors.
Muchas gracias a todos los que contribuyeron y Dios los bendiga.
Thank you! This message from our grant recipients is for you, the generous faithful of the Diocese of Springfield who contributed to the success of this year's campaign.